Good morning. Good morning. This is People Power with Priscilla. We are the people and we have the power. And today I have two powerful women on with me. It's funny, we all have sister locks.
Thought about that. We were sitting in the courtroom the other day. Must be freaking these people out. They probably think it's some kind of club.
The sister lock clubs. So this morning we are honored to have former Senator Diane Wilkerson and head of the Boston Jobs Coalition, Angela Williams Mitchell. And we are here today. Good morning. Welcome, young ladies.
Good morning.
Today we are here to talk about this trial that has been going on the last 2 weeks. It's actually a hearing. And 4 of our city councilors sued the other 9 city councilors and the mayor because of the redistricting map. And so I think I only attended maybe 3 of the sessions, but I believe Diane, you were at all of them, as well as Angela.
I missed one.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna go right into it and talk about it. If you have any questions, you can call and want to get into the Zoom. You can call 617-282-0685, and Pastor Bruce Wall will give you the link to come in. So good morning. I'm going to start off with you, Diane, because you actually sent us a report.
I tried to do a daily. First, good morning. Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be at Praise Radio. And just, when I always say this on any radio or TV opportunity. It's so important for us as Black people to have medium to get information to people, right? Yes. Factual information in a timely fashion. So I don't take anything for granted. I just want to say thank you. Because this is an important service that the station plays. So I'm going to try to do it in like a 2-minute version and just a lay of the what I call the lay of the land. Because most people do know that's what this thing we call the census, the decennial census. Every 10 years, the United States government, U.S. Census through the U.S. Census Bureau does a census. That means they go count people. They try to count to see how many people are living in every particular city. And that census was done in 2020. Even in the middle of COVID, there were a lot of complaints about it. We are absolutely certain that they undercounted us because we were already in isolation. So we were double hiding. You know how Black folk and people of color do anyway. We double hide. We don't like to answer the door when we're strangers. We don't have to tell people our business. And so the downside, at least to that process, we often get undercounted. But anyway, there was numbers. The census report comes out, and then the city bodies, legislative bodies, state legislative bodies take those numbers and they draw the district, what they call the district lines. We see it on the House, the state House for our representatives and our state senators. And then you see it on the federal level for our congressional districts, because you have to draw those districts and divide the people up into equal categories. So the city of Boston did their redistricting. And based on those numbers, they had to divide up the city into the city council districts. We have 9 district councils. So you take the 675,000 residents of Boston and you try to divide them up into 9 districts. So basically everybody's supposed to have about 75,000, give or take 5% more or 5% less. But when we went to draw the census for after the 2020 census for Boston for the city council, what we learned, no surprise, that there had been a huge influx of new residents in what is now called the Seaport. And for people that don't know, I describe it as the new white neighborhood we created right in front of our eyes, near the water. In fact, that new influx of people that we saw over the last decade ended up putting that district, the District 2 is what is the number, over 13,000 people. So what that meant is before they could redraw the lines, they had to move people over so that they divide them up equally. So they had to move 13,000 people out of what is City Council President Ed Flynn's district. Now,
Mhm.
you couldn't go up because that's East Boston. So, and they're already locked, and they are surrounded by water. So that district is represented, District 1, represented by City Councilor Gabrielle Coletta, used to be Lydia Edwards. That's already maxed out, so they couldn't move any up, right? And then to the left is District 7, which is us. That's Roxbury, where we are. Angela and I live, and then just down, right up across is Roxbury, down across is District 3. District 7 represented by Tanya Anderson, District 3 represented by Frank Baker. Dorchester, you know, let's say a little tip of South Boston into Dorchester. So what that means is that they had to move people into District 3 in order to balance District 2, right? And so what happens, of course, is, what do you think? You move people to the left, that puts them up. Then you got to move people farther to the left. That's District 4. That's District 4 represented by City Councilor Brian Worrell. So in the process of doing that, they had to make some decisions that some people are not happy with. There were too many residents in District 2, which is South Boston, some of the South End. That's and so they had to move them. Well, you know that touching South Boston is not a popular discussion around here.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
Right.
some people took the position that you couldn't touch it, which of course make no sense. You had to, because you got to move some people, and that's all you got. You can't move the people from the seaport because they're all the way over to the right. So you can't jump over and move them into District 4, I mean District 7 in Roxbury, or District 3. So the city council went through a whole process in the fall, spring, summer, fall of 2022 to redraw the lines, came up with a map in November, voted on the map, which passed by 9-4. There's 13 members on the council, 9 people voted for the map. Just so happens all of the people of color, and then there was some other folks who voted yes. I think Kinsey Bach voted yes, Gabrielle Coletta voted yes. So that's the 9, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in getting to that map, the city council had to have hearings. They had to have meetings. They had to have a chair for the city council redistricting committee. Initially in January 2022, when Ed Flynn became the president of the council, he appointed Ricardo Arroyo as the chair of redistricting. Ricardo had, well, actually at that point, virtual meetings on redistricting, showing people the map. Then his campaign season, Ricardo ran for municipal. DA. He ran for Suffolk County DA. And so issues surfaced, as you know, during that campaign, and he was removed as the chair of redistricting on August 31st, 2022, and by President Flynn, and he appointed City Councilor Liz Breeden, new name to many of us. She is the district councilor for District 9, which is Boston Brighton. Yeah. Also, far end of the city, other side is Newton, so they had no border on the right to move. That so they didn't have any change because it's already actually a little bit overnumbered. But she became the chair, and City Councilor Brian Worrell, who represents District 4, most of Mattapan, the largest person of color, Black people, Latino people, Black population in any of the districts, became the vice chair. There was a whole host, a call out to a whole number of organizations, NAACP, Boston Local Organizing Committee, Boston Jobs Coalition, Chinese Progressive Association,
Reclaim Roxbury.
You name it. All those different organizations got together and started having discussions about what we wanted to see, that map, what it should look like, because we're the most impacted, because we are the majority of people in this city. And we certainly advised the councilors of what we wanted it to look like. And in the end, I would say we ended up with a map adopted that does accomplish that goal. Protects our District 4, Councilor Royal's district, but they had to move districts. People took issue with it, and it mostly was white people who took issue with it in the city. And so the You said at the outset that the city council sued. They didn't really. I mean, that's what was happening under the table, but they got a number of organizations from South Boston, and they recruited three Black residents from Dorchester, Mission Hill, and Mattapan to join this lawsuit to sue the city of Boston, which is the mayor, because she signed the map, and the Boston City Council, because they're the ones who created and voted to and sent the map to the mayor for her approval. So this group sued the city of Boston and the Boston City Council. And so what they did is ask the judge for a hearing on their motion for a preliminary injunction to stop the enforcement of that map, because this is election season for the city council.
Yes, it is.
In fact, the papers come out soon and they have to be turned back in May. So they asked the federal court to enjoin the implementation of the use of that map. And that hearing began last Monday and went through yesterday. They had final closing arguments. What was so unique and has yet to be explained to any of us is that the lead witnesses for the lawsuit that this group of individual residents and organizations filed, the lead witnesses were the 4 white city councilors. And so in essence, the city council was suing itself. I don't know how. I've never seen that. I'm a little trained in the law. I've never seen that. I still don't understand it because it didn't really get discussed much during the trial, if it was discussed at all. But literally, the community sued the city council, and the city councilors were the witnesses. Mike Flaherty was the first lead witness. City councilor Aaron Murphy was a witness. And of course, the coup de grace, I guess, on this past Monday, the final witness was Congressman Stephen Lynch. And
so was Maureen.
Well, she's not a city. I was gonna say she's a former city council, but the sitting city council that sued theirself. And then they had they had more than other witnesses, because they had Ellen Casper, who was actually Mike Flaherty's sister. And then they had former city councilor Maureen Feeney. But 3 of the sitting city councilors, or 2 rather, testified as witnesses for the plaintiff suing them, because they're defendants. And it was bizarre. The closing arguments were yesterday. That's the bottom line. The city and the city council were represented by attorneys. And so they put on their case. They had one witness, and that was the expert, Professor or Dr. Moon Duchin from Tufts University, who is a international expert on redistricting. And so people said, well, why didn't they put on what? Because this wasn't a full trial. This was just a preliminary injunction, but it was important because if it is denied, which we hope it is, they move forward with the election with the new map. If it's granted, it means that they don't have a map. And then I don't know what kind of chaos ensues on that one, but I guess they'd be back before the court. So that's the context of why we're here. Thank you for the opportunity. Our folks need to understand that, because how our districts are drawn matters.
Exactly.
It absolutely matters. There was decisions that had to be made. So we knew somebody was not going to be happy. There's a lot of misinformation that people had about what happened. But these folks filed an injunction and told the judge that the city council, mind you, they're talking to themselves, didn't have the appropriate number of meetings and hearings, that people didn't have at the meetings that they did have. They didn't have translation for the for the Latino, or they call them the Hispanics, as they call it, like they're cursing, like they're really concerned. But anyway, that's what they said. They didn't have translation. They didn't have notice for the meeting. There was a big meeting in South Boston. Here's a little secret. The very people who got on the stand and testified, Mike Flaherty and Aaron Murphy, they're the ones who called the meeting in South Boston. So they literally got amnesia when they got on the stand, said they don't know who called the meeting. Mind you, Every single piece of paper, email, communication that was distributed said the meeting was being called by City Council President Ed Flynn and the South Boston elected officials. I attended the meeting. Angela attended the meeting at the Condon School on October 19th, 2022 in South Boston. It was not a mistake, no confusion about who was calling the meeting, because all of the people that we just named sat at the front of the table and managed and moderated the meeting. But when they got to court, they didn't know. I have no idea who called that meeting. I know they didn't.
Isn't that perjury? Isn't that perjury?
Well, as they say, perjury is a legal construct, meaning we say, didn't they lie? And then whether perjury is what the court decides. But I am inclined to believe that they did not tell the truth when they answered those questions.
Well, it clearly, because I heard Flaherty say himself, he didn't know who called it. He think it was Ed Flynn and some community organization. That's exactly what he said. So if your name is on the
and Aaron Murphy said, I don't know who called it.
Yeah.
That was the meeting.
You know the funny thing, Priscilla? I think they forgot to tell Stephen Lynch, because Congressman Lynch gets on the stand and he testifies, and the judge asked him straight up,
yeah,
who do you call that meeting? He said, I think it was President Ed Flynn and Mike Flaherty. I don't know who else.
Yeah.
Angela, like I said, there, tit for tat, please jump in, Angela. I'm gonna take a rest. You could go take it from there.
Diane, thank you very much for setting that stage, because that is so important. Sometimes we lose the essence of what's going on because we don't have those details. So that was very important. And to talk about the lines being drawn, the counselors that testified, and even those who did not testify, like Baker, they are taking this personal. They forget that the population, the people, the residents elect officials, not that official decide who they're going to represent. And it's ironic because the drawing of the lines does not move your home. It doesn't move your church. It doesn't move your coffee shop where you meet your folks, your children's school. All those buildings and places that you visit remain right where it is, including you in your home. So it is bewildering why it is that, because for equal population, the lines have to be redrawn. Why the uproar? All that's happening is that you may get a different city councilor to represent you. And if you're in an uproar that, oh, I don't want to lose my city councilor, then you're saying that the other city councilor is not equally as competent to represent. You know, it also adds capacity to your community, because you think, okay, here you have a standing councilor that has represented you for a number of years. You have a new one now. There should be joint effort to keep what has been happening going. So it was really bewildering to me. And as they talk also about, as we talk about core retention, language is also very important. One of the things that they argue about, they meaning the complainants, one of the things they argue about is that, oh, the map was drawn around race, that all they talked about was race. Well, so is core retention. They want to retain their neighborhood as is. That is race, but you're not saying race. So you're trying to play words off against each other for folks that may not actually understand yes, you know, what you're doing. So this is so important. And I want to kind of step back a little bit. Folks who are listening and those who are not listening, tell your friends, your neighbors, your family, voting is important. Voting is important. Voting is important, especially not the presidential, your municipality, your local voting, because we send folks to Congress to represent us.
That's right.
And this is how we get representation, by the number of folks in the district and what have you. So don't underestimate your importance in going to the polls.
Very, very important. Thank you, Angela, for that. It's just strange. It's just really strange that they built a new city down there at the seaport. 13,000 people? Where
Brand
did
new.
they come from?
And that's an
Brand new.
excess. That's an excess of what they have. They were over, that district was over 13,000 people. And you can count how many Blacks live down there or own businesses down there.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I hope people that are listening takes this serious, because right there, it shows that there's something really going wrong with that city council. Okay. Because you're supposed to be working collectively for the whole city, whether you're a district or whether you're at large. I know Mike Flaherty kept saying how he was an at-large city councilor and he knew about all the districting, and he was the dean of the council and all that. So if you're the dean,
But he couldn't remember who called the meeting he went to in October.
I mean, you gotta laugh because it doesn't make any sense. And I just feel like our community really needs to wake up and attend hearings, attend meetings. I was glad to see that there were different organizations that were down there.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
because this, when they see us, they know that, okay, they're here, they're watching. I mean, Frank Baker, he yeah, I just don't understand these people, but they want what they want. And I remember during the hearings, he was acting a fool, just outbursting
up and down.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't do that in court, so he had to retain himself. But it's really sad, that we're in this state, in this day and age, where the council are fighting against each other. So that tells me if you all are fighting against each other, that
That's
means
right.
you don't really have our best interest at heart. You're thinking about your own seat. You're thinking about your own self.
Priscilla, something you said that just struck me is not just a local or state, but it's a national problem in that we saw during the course of the hearings that you attended, you were at City Hall, and was at City Hall during the process when they were drawing the maps, that this is what happens when you let people misbehave and they don't get checked. And it just gets worse and worse and worse, right? And we see it nationally, obviously, right? We saw the spectacle in New York, on Manhattan. That's the culmination of 50 years of allowing this man to spit on people. He said, literally pee on women. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and nobody would do nothing. Yeah. And that's what happens when we allow that kind of thing to go on unchecked, because Frank Baker, and I would say even the Councilor Murphy, didn't even know how to behave in a formal courtroom.
Exactly.
They talking loud, they passing notes, they getting up and they walking in and out of the attorney's box during the trial, and it was so distracting. He leaning over, he got his behind up in our face. I'm like, wait, what? Wait a minute. Go sit down. This is court. You don't do that in here. And it's funny, I said to the court officer, when I used to when I practiced law, you can see it. There's a boundary, there's a barrier there for a reason. And so they have a lawyer's box and they'd have attorney's boxes. And so when going out of the courtroom, I would be sitting there with my little notebook, my little black or gray or blue, dark blue Navy suit on, in my briefcase many a day, waiting for the cases to be called. And the court officers would come over to me and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you?" And I'd like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. Is this the attorney's box?" And they said, "Yes." And I sit down and say, "Good, I'm in the right place." Because I know what you're saying. You don't look like an attorney, or you in the wrong place. But I saw those folks kind of walking back. I'm like, so we had to say to the court officer, this week. She's not an attorney. What is she doing sitting up there?
Mm-hmm. Writing notes.
Writing notes like like what? That's not how it works. And
Right.
so she literally had to be admonished by the court officer. I'm saying she, I mean Counselor Erin Murphy. And because it's just this privilege, and I think it's absolutely, we made that exact same comment as Corinne just put in the chat, like white privilege. I think they just do what they want to do whenever, and then get mad that we question. So bottom line is, that I do want to make sure that I say this while I'm thinking about it, because, you know, we saw some funny things, we saw some serious things, but this is important. And this is why it is important that our people understand what is happening here very quietly. Two reasons. One is the same counselors that we saw get up on that stand and cry, like get choked up because they're so concerned that they felt like the Hispanics, I think they said the Vietnamese and the Haitians didn't have somebody to translate for them at these meetings, and that's a violation of law, even though they called the meetings themselves and didn't make plans. The other thing is that, I was gonna say, these are the same people running all over our community, smiling, taking pictures with our people everywhere. Smiling.
And we have to remember that as a community, we must remember that.
Come Thanksgiving, they go donate, bring turkeys to our, different organizations. Christmas, they bring in gifts and smiling and, come showing up to the parties, showing and smiling all over social media because they love Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. They just spent 2 weeks in court trying to convince a judge that Black people, there's too many Black people here, and that they were too much of the focus when the district lines were redrawn. And that white people's rights got violated, period. And I'm quoting the sacred rights of white Boston residents, and under the Voting Rights Act in the 14th Amendment. So I just, like I said, even though we're smiling and talking through it, this is serious stuff. First, there are no rights. They have no rights under the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act, right? That was adopted because of the Black people that got beaten to the ground, killed, and had dogs and sicked on them and hoses turned on them to keep them away from voting. The same people who couldn't register unless they could guess the number of jelly beans in a jar or the number of bubbles in a bar of soap, right? That's what the Voting Rights Act was passed for, on the back of hundreds of marchers and protesters in the South in 1965. And she said that the map violated, Erin Murphy, in her affidavit in the complaint, that the map that was adopted violated the sacred rights. Maybe it is a secret because nobody know where they are. sacred rights of white residents of Boston by doing a map that preserved the majority minority district that is, we call District 4, right? Like what? And it was a violation of the 14th Amendment. Yes, people, that's about slavery, right? Like that's not for you, equal protection, to make sure that Black people, Latino folks are equal to the same, like one man, like the whole, we are equal. Because why? Because before that, we were 2/10, or the 5/10, whatever, of a 3/5 of a person in the Constitution of the United States. So they're claiming the very amendment that was created to allow us the right to have a district and recognize us as violating their rights. That's number one. Number two is this. This is a federal court proceeding. It is not a joke. It's not a game where they're playing. The reality is that this case that they have brought, they have every intention. Like I said, if they lose the preliminary injunction, the case doesn't go away. It means we go to full trial. And that everything that we have been told and that we saw has only confirms what we were told, and that they plan for this case to be the test case to go all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, because they know they may have trouble getting past the district court in Massachusetts, the appeals court in Massachusetts, but they might find a very friendly voice in front of this Supreme Court, so they could appeal it all the way. And what would it feel like if a case from Boston, a voting rights case from Boston, ended up being the one that destroyed the rest of what is left of the Voting Rights Act, because that's what this is about, folks. This ain't a joke. And that's why I posted last night. This ain't a game.
That's right. This is
This
serious
ain't a game.
business.
This is very
Yes.
serious business. This will be the shame. I think I might have to leave Massachusetts on that one. If we ended up the state through which the rest of the Voting Rights Act is initiated, because that's what they want to do. They do not, they just don't like it. They don't like the fact that the majority of people on our council now are people of color. So they keep losing these votes, the 7-5 and 8-6, and
Yeah,
so,
9-4.
so, right. That's why it's serious. That's why it's serious. That's
And
why
this is what this is what bothers me, that our folks don't understand. Like you said about the turkeys and the gifts. That Aaron Murphy and Mike Flaherty are having a meeting this evening at the Great Hall. I believe it's around violence. I had the flyer here. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, they don't care two hoots about the violence and what's going on. But yet they come to the Great Hall. Everybody think, oh yeah, they care. Have you seen them before? Have you seen them before at the Great Hall? So
we ain't gonna talk about the fact that they were able to enlist some Black people from our very own community.
Yeah, City Council Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee hearing, Thursday, April 6, 5 p.m. Join us at the Great Hall in Common Square at 6 Norfolk Street for a City Council hearing to discuss efforts to combat summer violence. Aaron Murphy at large City Council, Michael Flaherty at large City Council. A list of ways to view this hearing will be posted online prior to the hearing at boston.gov/City Council TV. Really? I mean, really.
See, that make me want to throw up, really.
I know, it's ridiculous. And I know you all know the Kinsey Box seat is going to be open now. She done got appointed to the BHA. I mean, it's just, I just don't understand the thinking and the logic, but it's an open seat. I say we need to run a slate of people, 13 people.
So here's what I'd say about that. That seat is Back Bay, Beacon Hill.
Mission Hill.
Mission Hill's a small piece of it, a very small piece of it. It's Back Bay, Beacon Hill, all the way, kind of going back all the way to almost to the Brookline, almost.
And Fenway also, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, she has a portion of Fenway.
Because Tanya Anderson has some of Fenway as well. Only reason I say that is to say that is a majority Back Bay, Beacon Hill district. And while I'm all for, the Voting Rights Act, the whole purpose of electoral politics is to be able to elect a candidate of your choice. That's the case whether they're Black or white or Latino or Asian. And so while I don't foresee a Black candidate coming out of that space that could be victorious, I do think that there are some people, there's some white people or whatever that we should, we have to look at who the candidates are, and to the extent we can, jump behind the one who we think would represent our interests. The reality is that Kinsey Bach represents much of Mission Hill.
Yeah.
Up center, and she represents much of Mission Hill, and Kendra Laura has the rest of that representation, and she goes all the way to West Roxbury. Just so you understand how really those lines are drawn. And so that district that Aaron Kinsey Bach represents was represented by Zakem was the last before her. And then before Josh Zakem, and before Josh was Matt O'Malley, right? So it's Matt O'Malley.
No, Matt O'Malley was West Roxbury.
That's right.
Yeah, that's Kendra Laura's seat now.
What's her name? Martha Walsh. That's the kind of that's who comes out of that representation, is the bottom line. I mean, the thing is that we may not be able to do that, but we should be able to do we should be able to influence. That's the whole point. You still want to influence that election. And then,
Right.
as you said, Priscilla, this is city council season, so that there may be
Mhm.
some other districts that we should, that actually are predominantly populated by our people,
Mm-hmm.
that we need to decide whether we support the people who are there or we support others. And then there's a whole, 4 citywide city councilors, 4 citywide city councilors. We should be looking at that.
And what
Right.
Diane is saying is so important, that we have to hold our elected officials accountable. If we don't hold them accountable, we are as equally negligent in what happens in our community. So it is extremely important we vote, and then when we vote someone in, that we hold them accountable.
That's so true. And not only that, but we support them as well, especially, the ones that support us. We support those who support us. And we
Mhm.
definitely need to come up with we need to do a report card on these people.
Yeah.
We need to be able to let them know who and what we want. It's budget seasons for the city and the state. And for all the money that I hear that they have, we need to be getting some of it. We need to ask for it. The Bible tells us we have not because we ask not. And so we definitely need to be when the hearings come, we need to be able to testify. I mean, before COVID, we knew that we were inadequately served. Now we done went through COVID. There's still a lot of, we're still suffering from the effects of COVID,
Right.
because, people don't, it's just a mess. It really is. And if our community don't understand that, if our people don't understand that, that's why I like my show, People Power with Priscilla. Because I feel like we are the people and we do have the power. We just have to, we can't be afraid. What are we gonna be afraid of? So we just have to continue to be mindful and continue to stay on top of this. Now, Diane's saying that there may be a trial. If something like this goes up to the Supreme Court, really?
Either way, there's a trial. Like I said, this was a motion for a preliminary injunction to enjoin them from using the new map in this year's election. So if they win, this throws into a chaos. But if they lose, they go forward with a trial because they're still going to challenge the map.
Right. And I mean, you have people that have been moved out of one district into another. I was in District 4. I'm now in District 5. 10 years ago, I was in District 5 and got put in District 4. So now I'm back where I started, right?
But Priscilla, here's the point. The point that you just made is confirming what Angela said earlier. Your house is in the same place, right?
Right.
They moved their house. They moved the lines, and so these folks came to court crying. We're a community. We don't want to be moved. Like you don't have to move. Your house don't move. When the congressman gets up and says, "I grew up here in South End, the Ann Lynch, development, and the Mary Ellen McCormick, and we're a united family, and I go to church across the street," and I'm saying they ain't moving your church.
Right.
They ain't moving your corner store. It's still there. You still get to go to the same old store. The same. They said, we have a whole community health center. I'm saying they ain't moving the community health center.
Right.
I don't think they kick you out from being a patient because you got moved to
your
a different
district line has moved.
It's really just like just listening to them. They act like they moved. They woke up and their house got moved into another neighborhood. No.
Right.
St. Brendan's Church is still where it was yesterday. So if you in that parish, you still in that parish, right? Like it's an entitlement argument.
I was just gonna say they are exercising white privilege.
Yes.
I do not want to lose control of what I have. What I've been able to control for X amount of years. And that's all it boils down to, because even in their testimony, it was all editorializing. It was all personal feelings. There was nothing in their testimony that had any statistical value to show that, yes, when you redraw the lines, that indeed you do affect, the voting or the opportunity to elect folks of elect someone of your own preference. None of that was shown statistically. As a matter of fact,
Right.
the what's her name? The star witness, what's the
Moon,
doctor, the
Moon,
Dr.
PhD,
Dr.
Dr.
Moon.
Dukin, yeah.
Dr. Dugan showed that
Mhm.
contrary to their talking about their emotional feelings and what they thought would or won't happen, she was able to clearly show that none of that was in effect. None of that came to play, but again, I will continue to emphasize how important it is for us to be vigilant. And like Priscilla said, we elect, but we also have to support. We need to stand up and hold our elected officials accountable, but also ask them, how can we support them? What can we do for you? This is what we need in our community. How can we support you to champion for our needs?
That's right. That's right. I tell you, this conversation is really good, and I'm just hope people are listening and that they're taking it in, because this is 2023. And sometimes I feel like we back in the 1960s. I think about Diane's contemporations report. She says, this ain't 100 years ago. This ain't 200 years ago.
No.
This is 50 years ago, 60 years
Oh,
ago.
Angela, listen, Priscilla, Angela, you want to tell her what we did yesterday, where we went after court?
So, the Boston Water and Sewer has 5 parking lots that they're going to get rid of. So at the first meeting they had, Diane asked, they gave a history of the locations, the parcels. And the history on it went back maybe 20 years or so. So a week or so ago, I went to City Hall to get the map from 1962 to show what was on those 5 lots. So Diane and I rode around yesterday with the map in our hands that showed all the buildings, all folks' homes that was literally stolen from them under the auspice of urban renewal.
Renewal, yeah.
But they never gave that history, never voiced that history. And Diane asked about it. Diane, I let you talk about that because that was your baby.
Well, just that, because they showed this history and said the parking lot, under the title History of the Property, the parking lots have been used for parking for the last 20-something years. So, and they show us a map, and under the map, I could see a faint print of the line, those lines that represent housing. And so yeah, I said, I'm just curious about the history. I know you go back to 20 years of parking lot, but what was there before that? Was this part of the property, the urban renewal, where the city bulldozed the housing that was owned by Black people? Yeah, I asked. I surely did. At the hearing, and they said stumble and bumble for a while, but we'll check. Not sure. So Angela got the map. We took the map and walked it out. All you see on the map is the lines representing the houses and the streets that
in
were
the number of the houses, what the address was, is all on the map. But they never addressed that. Our history is not important. Of course, they're not going to address it because they know what they did was wrong. And here you stole people's home. You robbed them of their generational wealth. And now you want to give away the parcels?
We got to use stronger language. It's not wrong. It was criminal. They stole the people's houses, bulldozed them, didn't pay them for it, and now going to turn around 50 years later and sell your house back to you. if you want to buy something on the very lot which your family owned 50
What?
years ago.
Deed restrictions, because they're not
Right.
selling these homes
Boom.
where you are building generational wealth.
Y'all about to
That's
hit a
not what's
nerve, 'cause
happening.
I know Corinne got something to say about that. Right.
They are doing this with 20 plus, with 30 years deed restriction plus 20 years at the discretion of the city. How the hell am I going to build?
50 years.
You know, how? I could be dead in that. How am I going to get equity to send my kids to college or whatever
about
I
it.
want to do?
Think about what she just said. That property, that neighborhood was overwhelmingly populated with Black homeowners, brownstones and all.
Yeah.
The city, the BRA, now BPDA, I still call them BRA because
Me too.
The city decided that they're going to redesign Roxbury. And this was before that was called Melnia Cass, because that was just done in the 70s. It was Honeyman Street, right? The city decided they're going to redesign Roxbury by bulldozing. This was also part, this is more than just the urban renewal for the highway, because remember, the highway was never built. They
Right,
will redesign Roxbury by bulldozing the houses, the residential houses, and the commercial property that Black people owned, had their own ecosystem, had own businesses. And we hear the family stories, the Singleton stories, the Titus family, the Janey family, Dorothea Jones and her family, Judge Leslie
Aziza Goodnight's family.
The Goodnight family, Judge Leslie Harris, his beautiful wife Beverly, her family, all part of the legion of property owners, right? That owned property. And the city just decided, no, bulldoze, tore them down. And now, 50 years later, gonna put out an RFP and let you bid to get your family's property back. But because most of you, us, we're not developers, we ain't even in the hunt. We're not even in the mix. So they're gonna end up giving, as if they do what they've been doing, some white developer or some community development corporation, some nonprofit will be given that property to build housing to either rent to you if you're poor and you promise to stay poor and you can stay in the house, or if they build what they call the affordable homeownership, they'll sell it to you for a good old deal and even give you some down payment money. The little hitch is, though, you can't get equity. You can't accrue equity out of it because you don't really own it. And you actually have to get permission from the city, even if you want to be away for a month. You can't rent it if it's a duplex because you can't be earning more money. You can't be earning money with a tenant, right? And you can't. I mean, it's all so colonizing.
That is criminal. That's exactly what it is. Because eminent domain, that obviously was not created by us, right? Eminent domain says this is your property, but we want it, so we're gonna take it. Now, to me, that's stealing.
That's theft. That's why I said call it what it is. That's criminal. This is criminal.
Unbelievable.
We can't be quiet, is the point. And again, tell me this is not connected. Tell me this is not related to the district lines and who represents us. Because we have this whole issue kind of that is evolving, if that's the word, the Heath Street property owners who bought the houses from the city, right?
How many years ago?
2000s, in the 2000s, again, not 50 years ago, in the 2000s, who bought these houses, right? And only to find out they didn't really buy a house, even though they've been paying mortgage now for 25 years. They can't leave it in a will. They can't sell it and get money to go buy another one, to go away and retire. They can't get equity to send children to college, which is what they thought they were doing because of the deed restrictions that the city done made up after they bought the houses. And the city councilor that represents them and the state representative that represents them has told those homeowners that they support the deed restrictions. And
I
don't
mean,
think that they should be
that's
able
the
to
whole,
help.
that's the whole purpose of purchasing homes, to help
The
build
entire
wealth.
whole purpose.
That's what
I mean, it
FDR
doesn't
did.
matter.
When in the recession, when all those homes were built, it was built for white folks, and developers were incentivized not to sell to black folks. Now the city's doing the very same thing, except now they're doing deed restrictions. You can buy, but you don't really own it. And that's no different from the rental unit.
Renting, right.
That is no bloody different, because in renting, you have income restriction. So you can never get out of being impoverished. You can't get a job that's going to pay you good living wages, because it's going to affect the benefits that you get. There is no, if I'm getting aid, the whole purpose of aid is to help you change your trajectory. And this does not. This stifles you. It leaves you poor.
Just like
Home
Diane
ownership
said,
today is the same thing. And these are the things that we have to be mindful of when we elect people. How are you protecting us? What's the benefit of me electing you? And when
Right.
they don't come to fruition, one term out. And if we start doing that, folks will understand, oh, they can't bulldoze us. They can't run over us. They can't use us just to get where they want to get politically.
That's right.
just like Diane said, to get in, you got to be poor, and to stay in, you got to stay poor.
Stay poor.
And that's basically what they have done. But now they're taking public housing and making that private, so you can't even afford to live there.
That's right.
I mean, it's just like they just don't want us here. But I'm telling you, I ain't going nowhere. I was born and raised here. I ain't going nowhere until I'm ready.
And so, again, a reason for the importance of having an opportunity to come on Praise Radio, because we have to let people know this stuff, Priscilla, because people don't know.
That's
people
right.
Don't know. People don't know. And the thing about it is, we gotta be making these connections. You have to ask the questions about the people who say they want to represent you, right? You have to. And the thing about it is that we don't. It's all become pictures and events, right? Show up, smile. People now getting, people now giving themselves awards every other week. There's another award ceremony, and we see it's not just about, look, I know I can say this for you, Priscilla, Angela, me, all of it. I'm not gonna ever be hungry, right? Like I'm not gonna start. I know too many people who would take care of me. I'm never gonna be homeless. But you live around a whole group of people. That is the reality. One step away.
Yeah.
And so it's not enough that I'm okay. It's not enough that you're okay. We gotta know that our people are not okay. Our people are getting less okay every day.
That's right.
Every day. So I don't understand all the awards. Well, you get an award.
For
Open up a district office and you think that's history?
That don't make no sense. I could not believe that.
Do something. Do something. Like pass a bill, take a position, right? That's so yeah. That's so please, like I think there's an award ceremony every other day. Like, the best this, the best that. What? And our children are falling farther behind in school. Our health equities, the gap is widening. We're not getting healthier. Black women, Congresswoman Presley talked about this last night. I saw her at an event, and she talked about Black maternal health. We don't talk about it enough. Look, we live in the literal shadows of the best medical institutions in the world. Not in the country, in the world.
In the world, yep.
And we have the worst health indicators than most other first world countries, some second world countries, right? In terms of maternal health, Black women dying and childbirth at a rate higher than most second world and some third world countries. People, this is not just talk. This is connected. This is connected. So when you say, I have no intention, no desire to ever own a house.
I know.
So what? So that means that we supposed to adopt that too?
Right.
You have a right to that.
Right.
But how does that turn into your official position? So therefore, you're not going to do nothing to help us buy one. That's how people gain and create wealth.
Wealth at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Period. So it's just, I thank you for allowing us the opportunity to talk about, like I said, redistricting, because we end up talking about why this is important.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Who you
And
vote
I just hope and understand that our people will wake up and listen to what we're saying. We ain't just saying this because to be saying that. These are facts. We have documentation. You know, we attend these hearings and these meetings. There's a hearing tomorrow around the biannual Boston resident job policy. It's a joke. If I got to go, I'm going down there. I'm gonna testify. And if I hear one of the city councilors say, well, when we come back in October, we hope things will be better, I'm gonna scream. That's all we've been hearing. Well, when we come back in April, I hope to see things better.
What's going to happen through osmosis? It doesn't happen on its own?
No. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. So, I think I have 1 minute. Lord have mercy.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to have you back. We're going to keep talking about this. Because see, this is my show and I can bring who I want. I want to bring them city councilors in. All 4 of them.
Shake it up.